Welcome to Outside the Box number 318. It's August 2nd, 2014. And tonight we're going to be looking at the recall election, the recall petition for Charles Hales and Steve Novak, the men seen in the pictures coming up in just a little bit. But before we do that, I want to let you know the show times for this particular program. Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Channel 22 at 10 p.m. on Wednesday, Channel 23 at 6:30 on Saturday, and Channel 11, the whole metro area, at 5 o'clock on Sunday. My websites, alexansary.tv, youtube.com/alexansary. You can also find me on Twitter and Facebook. And you also find me posting the shows, the YouTube shows, at those particular places. My email is alex_ansary@hotmail.com. So there's a petition right now that a particular man by the name of Ray Horton has put together. And he told Willamette Week, it all started with the street tax, but it's not really about the street tax, but both Mayor Hales and Commissioner Novak had a dismissive attitude towards people who express concerns about budgeting. Now, this is the mayor, okay, and this is Novak. I've met people that don't know that these people are the people in charge of the government in Portland. These people, we should know who they are. And there's a lot of people that have moved here in recent years that aren't aware of things that are going on locally because they've come from places that are already going bankrupt, and they've been told that Portland is the #1 place to live right now. And so there's a lot of illusions about Portland's livability right now, and there's a lot of things taking place right now for the few to make money off of the many. And so this is very important to understand that right now people are upset about the street tax. They're looking for an extra $144 per year per resident, but it's so far larger than that. Tonight we're going to cover some things that some people haven't yet heard of, but it's all part of the same whole situation that we're looking at, and the corruption gets fairly deep. So there's an interview that you can find between Ray Horton and Willamette Week online. We don't have time to get into everything that was said, but this is just one example of many examples of discontent that is rising with native-born Portlanders that understand that something is wrong with our city. Now, we have a video that we're going to go to in just a minute. We'll get that ready now. But before we do, let me go ahead and mention this. The new plan, now that the old plan was so unpopular with the citizens of Portland, make the rich pay Portland street fee. Novak poll receives support from surveyed Portlanders. Now Novak has released a new poll that shows 60% of Portlanders supporting taxes on those that earn more than $125,000 a year to pay for maintenance and safety projects. Only 37% oppose the idea of a 1% tax on incomes above $125,000, 2% tax on incomes about $250,000, and 3% taxes on incomes above $500,000. It's very involved when you're talking about the budget. And there's so much money that's gone missing over like countless amounts of years. And historically, the city of Portland was involved in vice and other illegal things. And there are many books that get into that. We did a show on Oregon Shanghai a couple weeks ago. And so this Portland town that a lot of you have been told is really progressive and sustainable and accountable, in reality is a very different Portland. And we'll be talking more about the real Portlandia in future episodes. But this is a video that I recently uploaded to my YouTube channel featuring a conversation between myself and a native-born Portlander. And there are some things that are mentioned in this video that I thought were worth sharing with you as well. Go ahead and roll it, Bill.
He's issuing, look at that, $225 million worth of bonds in August 2014 for sewer system capital improvements. Oh, yeah. $31 million August 2014 for cash flow borrowing. $110 million in bonds for water system capital improvements. You're looking at more than a quarter of a $1 billion rather, here in just in August alone, in fall, of debt by issuing bonds. And what's going on here? So they want to extract money for sewer, and here we've got all these bonds going out. They're borrowing all this money. This is ridiculous. They don't know when to stop. The combined sewer overflow project that the federal government supposedly made the city of Portland do in order to keep the water of Willamette River from having overflow issues with the sewer. And so the city just rolled over, hardly fought it, went ahead and implemented it. So now we've got this huge tunnel that runs down underneath of the west side of the Willamette River, and then goes underneath of the river going toward the north direction, and then combines with another tunnel that's going underneath the Amzi that goes down the east side of the river, the east side corridor, and continues on its way all the way north to near Kelly Point Park, where there is, near the Columbia Slough, where the Columbia River wastewater treatment plant is. This is a huge multi-billion-dollar project that took like 10 years. You know, it's $5 or $6 billion. I can't remember what the numbers are. They're way up there.
This is additional debt, of course.
Right, additional debt. They just keep adding debt.
They just keep adding debt.
They don't know how to control themselves.
Debt to who?
To the taxpayer, the ratepayer. In this situation, that's why our water bills are so high. Our water bills are among the highest in the nation because they keep adding on these capital expenditures from these, quote, federal mandates that the government gave supposedly to require us to keep our water clean. And it required us to build this huge system to divert the water so that it doesn't go into the Willamette River.
Because we have runaway debt, we have runaway utility increases.
Bills. And we have issues downtown with City Hall with having problems with money. Not being able to fund a lot of things. That's why they're coming to us with street fees and asking us for street fees, or they're doing all these, they're jacking up the fees to help offset revenue issues that normally would be taken care of with taxes and with tax revenue. And it's driving people out of the city. It drives the long-time old residents out of the city, and the new people coming in don't notice it because where they're coming from, life is very expensive. Like if you live down in California, you're paying way more than we do, but their infrastructure is falling apart. So why would you want to use that system that those people are running from as an example of how much money we should be spending here in this city when those systems are bankrupt? Edmund Brown, all those guys down in Jerry Brown, those guys in California, their whole background, their whole state government, the infrastructure is falling apart. They could collapse any year now. They're barely making their budgets every year. And so California is falling apart. What's going to happen here in a few weeks if we have the issue with the riot starting possibly because of the incident with the lady getting beat up in the freeway by the California Highway Patrol, right? It could be that a riot could start from that, just like Rodney King's riots back in the 90s. If that happens, we're going to have another wave of white flight to the city. So I've been a member of this city. I've lived in the city most of my life. Every time there is a wave of crime in California, or earthquakes, like an AIDS crisis, there's a wave that comes to Oregon and in Portland area. So when they had the AIDS epidemic in '86, massive influx into the city of people showing up from California. Then the Northridge earthquake happened in the late '80s or whatever. They rush up here, and in the Rodney King riots, they come up here. So this time, if this issue goes to a head and they don't solve it, there possibly might be a long, hot August summer. I don't have it with me. I should have brought it with me, but I have bond documents on my computer that show you the actual bonds. They're like 400-page documents that are issued to people who buy bonds to show what the document's risk. It shows the city's risk levels are, and helps assure the bondholder that they're going to be getting their interest rates and everything that they're being told that they're going to get. Right? The document is issued to every bondholder. Okay. In that document, you'll see some Wall Street banks. Okay, so they're the underwriters that underwrite this debt. So the city goes out, and the city, unusually, like a lot of cities, has decided to build in their own bond-creating facility. Unlike other cities where they have to go to another party, like the actual Wall Street banks themselves, in order to have a bond securities created, our city has a bond-making facility built into it. And they have their own private lawyers that work with them and everything to create these documents. And then they work with the banks on Wall Street to underwrite it. Okay, well what happens is, these bonds, ultimately what happens with them is that they get issued and people buy them. And the reason why they're buying them is because they're usually wealthy people who are looking for a kind of a guaranteed return on their investment, and usually they're willing to accept a lower interest rate than they would get from other investments.
Guaranteed return on investments.
And the reason why is because they're in such a high tax bracket that if the capital gains taxes will hit them really hard if they invest in other things. So they're willing to take a hit and go for a lower interest rate bonds, like municipal bonds that are non-taxable. They're willing to accept that because it assures them of a fixed amount of return, as opposed to go out and invest in something that has a higher rate of return and then getting hit with taxes. So this is wealthy people. Yeah. And what happens is a lot of these wealthy people live right in our city. They're up in the West Hills, and that's one of the reasons why up in the West Hills those people up there, when they have their sewer hookup fee, they're not going to pay for it, according to this Oregonian article. The Oregonian is saying the city of Portland is going to cover their sewer upgrades up in the West Hills. Whereas here on the east side, like in my street, the guys in our neighborhood have to pay $12,000 a piece to rehook up the sewer. That is a disgrace, okay? So what it is the people who own the bonds, to get the borrower server to the lender, the people who own the bonds get to tell City Hall what to do. So I have a statement that I make in one of my writings, and basically what I'm saying is one phone call from a major bondholder will raise the level of animation in the City Hall and in the mayor higher than 1,000 people screaming out in the streets who are residents. Because the bondholder has so many millions of dollars worth of bonds he's holding, and if he gets pissed off, he could cause some financial havoc with the city's credit rating or whatever. So they listen to what he says. One little guy might be living up in the West Hills somewhere or down in the Cayman Islands or something.
So you have the information on the bondholders?
I know the people who buy them are rich because the interest rate's too low for anybody else to be interested in it. You and I wouldn't be interested in it because the interest rate's too low. But the reason why the only people who buy these are rich because they're in the tax bracket where they would get too heavy of a tax if they invested in something else.
Are most of them local?
I don't know. That's a great mystery.
So it's a little bit of everything. You have people on the west side, but you might have people from somewhere else.
Right. I think, yeah, they could be all over the United States.
And is China involved? Is China
it could be overseas.
Things we could ask and look into. HSBC, are they involved?
It could be anybody who buys them. It could be someone overseas owns it. It could be Chinese. It could be somebody in the East Coast.
So we need to get the information. Who are the bondholders?
And it's hard to figure out who the bondholders are because that's highly held secret. That's usually known by the Wall Street banks.
Okay, so now we're getting into some deep stuff.
Yeah, and that's hard to do. I think the mayor knows because when the mayor takes a phone call, I believe
the mayor knows who the bondholders are.
Some of them are, yeah. And I think the people in the commission knows who they are, and that's who they're beholden to. And that's why they ignore the voters. They ignore the local residents who complain about issues in City Hall because they know that they've got the bondholders' interests to secure, and they're more interested in pleasing the bondholders than they are the actual residents of the city. And the reason why it's the bondholders, if the city goes bankrupt, there's two groups that will be fighting it out. There'll be the bondholders who will be fighting for their first lien claims on the city's debt and the city's assets, and there's also pension funds. If you watch Detroit's bankruptcy, those are the two groups that fight it out. And so what happens is it goes back and forth. Sometimes the bondholders win in the battle and they want their money back. Sometimes the pension holders want their money back, and it's been going back and forth in court. I don't know what the solution is right now. The recent court cases, I don't know what's happened there, but that's a mess over there. And that's what will happen to this city when we go in debt and go bankrupt, is there will be a battle between the bondholders and the pensioners.
Now, another piece of information that I want to share with you. The next graphic, this is from the City of Portland, Oregon, April 30th, 2014. This is the investment portfolio summary. Now, there's a lot of information there. You can look it up online. This is what the City of Portland invests in. As we go through the next slides, you see certain corporations come up. U.S. Treasury. Let's just read right now off the screen. Wells Fargo, J.P. Morgan Chase towards the top of the page, and then it shows the amounts. Deutsche Bank, General Electric. Let's go to the next slide. HSBC. We'll talk about them in a minute. Coca-Cola, Toyota. There's Wells Fargo again. U.S. Treasury. Next slide. All right. And Bank of Mitsubishi. So we'll finish up, show all this information. People that talk about money and what the city's investing in, they should look up this report. This is where the City of Portland is putting its money. This is what Portland is investing in. This is where the City of Portland, this is where the values are. In the next graphic, we want to show the one with HSBC. Portland has an estimated $8.3 million in holdings, is what we've been able to discover from looking at this report. Now, we have a video relating to HSBC, and this featured Everett Stern, who's a whistleblower, and this was Occupy. This was August 29th, 2013, and you're going to get some information about HSBC, the company that Portland is invested in, to the tune of $8.3 million. Go ahead and roll it.
All right, New York, listen up, because we have a major issue going on here about a block away. HSBC at 452 Fifth Avenue is sponsoring terrorism on U.S. soil. Now, I came here today with all begging. I personally am a conservative Republican. I joined up with this group because even though they are Occupy and left, they would get out here, hold signs, and support and help me. But right now, when I was an anti-money laundering officer at HSBC, I was faced with seeing countless, we're talking hundreds upon millions of dollars of terrorist funds. Money moving from Kariba supermarkets in Gambia back to Lebanon, to Tajiko, owned by the Tajiin brothers. HSBC has admitted this. HSBC has admitted to sponsoring terrorism. They've admitted to it. They've admitted to sponsoring drug cartels, the Zeta drug cartel. Over 500,000 Americans a year die from drugs. And they're taking our $30 deposit fee, or withdrawal fee, and they are putting that towards sponsoring of terrorism and drugs. This is not a normal banking scandal that we're faced with. This is a scandal of biblical proportions that is affecting the entire country, that is a national issue. It's a national security issue. So I'm standing here today in front of you because, again, I'm the whistleblower here. I've reported this to the FBI. I was featured in Rolling Stone. You can read my article, and you'll see I've been trying to get this information out. And what ended up happening was the government formed a deferred prosecution agreement, and they fined HSBC $1.9 billion as a result of their crimes. 5 weeks of their pay. Their stock went up. That doesn't make any sense. That is not American. How is it that they can sponsor terrorism and get away with it? If I were to donate $1 to Hamas or Hezbollah, I would go to jail for life. It's treason. But they get to walk. In fact, not only do they get to walk, they get to enjoy a lobster dinner and get into their BMW. Now, there's nothing wrong with capitalism.
In fact, there was a Rolling Stone story that did a special on HSBC, so they profited to the tune of billions of dollars through the illegal drug trade, through allowing the Zetas and the cartels to launder their money, and other groups that have been labeled what they've been labeled, Hamas, Hezbollah, the groups that have been labeled terrorists, as well as others, as well as Russian mafia figures. So there's a number of groups that HSBC has been documented to have done business with. And here we have the connection with the city of Portland. So you can learn more online. In the next graphic, this is from the Oregonian. They're starting to do more stories on the rising cartel violence that may be creeping up into the Pacific Northwest as we see more growth in our region. By the way, they're expecting 400,000 people to be here over the course of the next several decades. We'll be talking more about the real Portlandia as the shows progress. But there's a lot of things that I felt in my gut are coming years ago, things that I've been concerned about, an increase in human trafficking, and we've seen such things increase. And there's not a lot of awareness as to why Portland is a hotbed for certain criminal activities, and that includes government involvement. So on this show, we're trying to shed some additional light on an issue that, for the most part, is widely misunderstood. Now, as more people go into, as marijuana becomes legalized more and more, the other reality that people have to realize is that for the cartels, there is an increase in the amount of human trafficking they're involved in, as well as heroin. It's just a means of going into other businesses that they're already involved in because of the money they're losing from marijuana being legalized. So this issue already with the human trafficking problem, we see what happens with the connection between heroin and the increase in crime rates. With the city of Portland doing business with people who launder money for the cartels, it's essentially slitting the city's throat, in my opinion. And it puts us at risk for an increase in human trafficking, child sex trafficking, violence, overdoses, etc. And overall, it contributes to homelessness, job loss, evictions. And this next article we're going to get into, this is from this week, people living on the streets face social stigma. So as a lot of people bite the economic bullet, a lot more people have become homeless and are becoming homeless. And it's not all drug addicts or people that are mentally unstable, although the streets can drive many to mental instability, especially when they're isolated from others. But reading from the article, homelessness is a big problem in Gresham, and it's gotten worse in recent years. While the homeless population overall has decreased nationwide, it's increased here in the Portland area, in Gresham, and it's mostly local people, according to homeless day shelter providers. This picture here is one woman who's homeless. And one form of discrimination that is big in Portland is prettier younger women that are hired by middle managers that honestly want something to be able to look at, eye candy. And so we're seeing massive displacement of men and other people. And there's lots of discrimination even in the world that women live in, the fierce competition to look the part, to have a job in the new Portlandia that is not a very fair Portlandia. And so there's a lot of people suffering that aren't drug addicts, that have people just don't treat them like they're human beings. And a lot of people have moved here, by the way, that have come from other places where it's worse. So all they say is, at least it's not San Francisco, at least it's not Phoenix, at least it's not New York, at least it's not this place. I've heard it all. And being homeless myself and living in my vehicle and being at different parks throughout the day, just trying to stay out of people's way and focus on what I came back to Portland to do, and that's report this information. I hear all these different stories, and I don't hear very happy people. They sound like they would be happier back where they came from. They seem, frankly, fairly disappointed with the fake bill of goods that they were sold, the homeless that they're seeing. They weren't expecting that. They were told that Portland was some green utopia. For those that live here, that are natives, do you think that this is some utopia, this city that is run and managed by loving leaders? We know that's not the case. So as more and more people are duped into coming up here and spending whatever money they've got left to get away from the bankrupt cities, and let's not forget about the drought problem that's spreading throughout the United States. Those are issues that are going to drive even more people here. So we're going to show a video featuring Central City Concern in just a moment. But to preface this, I went down to City Hall just the other day. How many homeless activists do you think were there that day? Sometimes they're there, but they're treated really poorly by Mayor Hales. They're treated as subhumans. Thank you for your testimony. Please get away. You know, something to that effect. I went there the other day. It was all representatives of the business community, all dressed up in their suits. Most of these people aren't even from here. And they just want to know, what is the city of Portland going to do about the transients? And I want to say there's a lot of disturbed people that are here that have ended up from other cities for lots of different reasons. This city has drawn in so many people. So it's difficult to even be somewhat associated to the homeless label because of the connotation that comes with it. But there's also things that are being done to the homeless that people don't see unless somebody like Joe Anybody, who gets credit for filming this video, that's where this came from. Joe Anybody was in downtown Portland, a couple months ago. And so here's Portland Clean and Safe. Go ahead and roll the video and I'll talk over it. And so like a good citizen, he's there to pretty much watch what's taking place. Let's go ahead, James, and fast forward to the heart of the video, past the commentary, and we want to actually show how they get him up. First, they start with some sort of pushing on the chest, and then they employ some other tactics, pain compliance tactics. Pain compliance tactics. Some people that watch this video that have actually worked in corrections have commented and said that that type of a hold, that type of a pinch that you're about to see, is the type of pinch that can cause permanent nerve damage. Let's skip ahead maybe 30 seconds. We want to get to where they're using the pain compliance. Did we all see that? Okay, I hope that was clear. That's what the powerful business interests want done in Portland. There's no place for the homeless to go. There isn't a safe place for the homeless to be. Portland traditionally has kept the social services downtown where the drugs are. This goes back historically a long number of years. There aren't places for people to escape. Oh, the Springwater Corridor. Oh yeah, you mean that spot where that guy got shot and killed a month ago because he swung at a cop with a crowbar? What he did may have been wrong. He may have been mentally disturbed from living on the streets and living an isolated life. He may have been on drugs. But that was an example of people that try to get away from downtown and be out of mind, out of sight. Unfortunately, when you're homeless, and you're hanging around other homeless, sometimes problems happen and the cops are called, which is why it's difficult to be homeless, because you can't be hanging around a lot of these other people with serious issues. But as far as this particular video, this highlights what is happening to many people downtown. Okay, let's move on. Community Coalition calls Portland settlement with police captain Mark Kruger an insult. We're now looking at a Portland police officer and the reputation that he has, and how the city responded to a lawsuit. A coalition of community members released a statement Wednesday calling the city of Portland settlement with Portland Police Captain Mark Kruger an insult to every freedom and justice-loving citizen in the city of Portland. A protest against the Kruger settlement took place last Saturday at Pioneer Courthouse Square. To settle Kruger's notice of intent to sue the city last month agreed to pay Kruger $5,000, provide him with 80 hours of extra vacation time, and erase 2 disciplinary actions from his record: an 80-hour suspension without pay that Kruger received in 2010 for his public tribute to 5 Nazi-era German soldiers, next graphic, at a Portland park sometime between 1999 and 2001, and a written reprimand he got this year for retaliating against a female lieutenant. As part of the negotiating deal, Chief Mike Reese also wrote a complimentary letter to Kruger praising his work and how he strengthened ties with immigrants. Once the settlement was made by the Oregonian last week, Mayor Charles Hale sent an email to city commissioners contending he was aware of all the terms of the settlement and would consult with legal staff to see if the city could back out of it. He declined to release the email, but issued a statement calling the binding settlement a distasteful decision for the good of the city. He said he was advised that the city could lose the case in court, while conceding that the community outrage was right and just. Now, how... spoken like a true politician, to please all parties at once through basically the words that you use. I mean, spoken like a true populist. I'm totally against what took place and what we had to do. That we basically, showed the world that an officer has us by the balls. An officer that was known to drive around Southeast Portland back in the day, listening to, speeches from Hitler. And doing all types of other things, engage in vandalism. And there was all different types of things that happened in Portland back in the day, things the Portland police did to the African-American community. And we have officers that are still on the job that have been promoted. And there's just books and books and books that could be written about this subject alone. So that is another headline. So for those that are considering whether to recall Mayor Hales or not, this is another piece of information for you to consider. But this is less about a recall. And let's get that next video up. Let me go ahead and take a look. Looks like we're going to be getting a G4S in just a minute. Before we do so, this is less about a recall campaign and more about business as usual, how the city of Portland actually operates. That city, by the way, which we'll get into in a future episode, which has been labeled number 23 to move to now in the world. Number 1 in the USA, but number 23 in the whole world, according to a prominent British publication. Back in the 90s, Veracats was advertising for Portland and the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. I didn't know about this until last week. It is a business endeavor. And there's 2 main classes of Portlanders that have now been created and are being expanded. The have-nots, those without a job, those considered subhuman, those considered homeless, those considered undesirable, those considered unemployable, those considered unwanted for whatever reasons in this quasi-fashion show that's become the new Portlandia, where so much is about appearance, where so much is about the mask that people wear, where so much is about the narcissistic game, about getting yours and screw whatever other person was in front of you or living in the city before you got there. It is a city that promotes that dark self-worship and greed within humanity. So a lot of people say, oh, Alex, Portland's a wonderful place. At least it's not LA, Phoenix, Philadelphia, as long as people have that attitude and rush here with their big city values where they have no connection to the local community, thus they have no reason to preserve anything good about the local community or local culture, then we're going to become a super maxed out super city, Agenda 21 city, mind you, with a bunch of people living in micro apartments, less families, and more people living out their lives like hamsters on a treadmill of sorts, in survival mode, 24/7. How to make that money, baby. Got to make that money, baby, so they can buy something, rent something that they're never going to own. I'm not here to bash you. I'm not even talking to any of you directly. I'm talking about how the city that I was born into in the year 1980, and also as a fourth generational Oregonian, I'm telling you what I see coming to this city. And it's something that I've had to come to terms with since moving back several months ago, to come to a place of acceptance that certain things cannot be changed. We're going in a certain direction, but what needs to be said is where we're headed. Now, G4S has a contract in Portland. We'll get into that in just a minute. Here's just a little video of a protest in London from May of 2013, where protesters are trying to make people aware that there is torture taking place, go ahead and roll it, in Israel at this time.
Raged at G4S's complicity in Israel's crimes against the Palestinian people. G4S is providing security services to the Israeli prison service, including the provision of services to prisons where Palestinian prisoners are held illegally, where they are tortured, and where there is also the detention of child prisoners. These are against international law, and we have evidence that already this year in one of the prisons where G4S provides services, Arafat Jaradat has been tortured to death by the Israelis.
We will be going inside to ask questions. I have affidavits from Palestinian children inside G4S-equipped jails. I want to present them to the board of directors of G4S and see what they have to say when their contracts with the Israeli prison authorities will end, and to send them a clear message that this campaign is international and will escalate until all G4S contracts with Israel have ended.
Jimmy Mabanga was an Angolan man who was living in London, who was being deported back to Angola in southern Africa. Two guards were sitting on either side of him. Another G4S guard was sitting in front of him. And while they had him in some kind of grip, he had a heart attack and later died. A number of passengers who were on the plane heard him shouting out repeatedly words to the effect of, "They're going to kill me, they're going to kill me, I'm dying, help me, help me." G4S is still making profits. They get away with blue murder.
Sitting in this room, they violence and oppression. G4S profit from Israeli prisons, from the illegal torture and detention of Palestinian political prisoners, including children, sometimes prisoned just for throwing a stone. G4S run immigration detention centres right here in London, where they commit human rights abuses every day.
We're here today to say to the public that G4S...
Okay, so G4S was recently awarded a contract in Portland, and the next video that we're going to play in just a moment is from the time period around May 28th, 2014, and this is the audio of City Council announcing the contract with G4S. Now, before we go to that, for those that missed last week's show, and for those that have been programmed by the mainstream media, there's a number of researchers out there that have found evidence that Hamas is actually a creation of Israel. And there's such a Zionist, and Zionist is a political movement. It has nothing to do with race. Stronghold in the Portland area, where people watch things on CNN, they watch things on MSNBC, and they say, this group over here fired a few rockets at this group over here, and it's like the story of 9/11 all over again. Well, it's the story 9/11, the official story, 3,000 dead, and they go and they murder and they slaughter millions, and it's still taking place this day. Some of you know people that are participating in the gang rape of Afghanistan and Iraq yourself. And there's consequences for this darkness this Pandora's box of darkness that we've opened up. Now with the situation in Gaza, this open air prison, where it's, what is it, Bill? Is it 1,500 dead now? How higher than that? Of course, they have to clear away the buildings that they've bombed, that they were bombing during this so-called ceasefire, which they blamed, of course, on Hamas. Oh, another missing Israeli soldier. And they never even documented the 3 missing Israeli teenagers. They never really truly documented or proved that Hamas did it. In fact, the Israeli police said the official story doesn't add up. And so we see chemical weapons being used against a defenseless population. Getting back to our topic, we see G4S, this London corporation, working with Israel. What has Israel done to Palestinian women for years? They've raped them. This is just a way of life, to be born into Gaza. Oh, you got a brother who's an activist? Oh, you want to be an activist yourself? Come with us. And there are all these pictures of them grabbing women and taking them away. And so you see these contract groups. Some of you have heard about Blackwater. Some of you have heard about Z. How many of you have actually heard about G4S? That it's been all these years talking about these other groups. Because all they have to do is just change their name. All they have to do is just be located somewhere else, like London, you know, and come out with a soft image. But G4S doesn't have a soft image. G4S has hurt people in South Africa, in many other countries. You can look up G4S torture and lots of things will pop up online. Listen to the sound of this woman's voice. Listen, she's almost trembling. I don't know what role she's playing as an employee of the city of Portland as she announces this contract with G4S. But think about what G4S represents and then understand that G4S now has a contract with Portland, Oregon. Go ahead and roll it.
Services. In February 2014, a request for proposals was issued to provide routine special event security for the Portland Building, City Hall, 1900 Building, Kirby Building, Columbia Boulevard Wastewater Treatment Plant, Emergency Communication Center, and Union Station. In March, 7 responses were received. The proposal responses were reviewed, evaluated, and scored by a selection committee made up of city staff and a minority evaluator. The proposal from G4S was determined responsive to the requirements of the solicitation and received the highest evaluation score. The city issued a notice of intent to award on April 10th, 2014, and no protests were received. You have before you a procurement report recommending an award of a contract to G4S Secure Solutions, USA, for uniform security officer services in amount not to exceed of $1,380,713.72. And I'll turn this over to Bob Kita to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Questions? Any? Okay. Thank you both. Anyone signed up to testify on this item?
No.
Okay.
Actually.
So then that rolls
Okay, we
to
back?
the second reading. No, I'm sorry. It's
Okay, we're going to get the next video ready, which deals with July 2nd being coined G4S Day in Portland, Oregon. Now, I've looked, ladies and gentlemen, on the web. There's zero reporting on this in Portland, Oregon. Not KOIN, not KATU, not Fox 12. None of these local affiliates have been reporting on G4S. Did you notice how her voice sounded so, Bill, did you notice how it sounded so defeated? Like, okay, roll this. We're going to play just a few minutes of this. This is from July 2nd, 2014, shot by yours truly.
We know him best for the last 10 years as he has led G4S's work here, serving the city with security. 3 different mayors, multiple members of the council, and multiple city bureaus. He's served as project manager for that role over the last 10 years. And in addition, continuing this role statewide and nationally as an expert in training on firearms. He's been responsible for managing our team here, 1,100 to 1,500 man-hours a week on the City of Portland's contract, always updating orders and procedures and keeping the system working and keeping everyone safe. He was a big believer in annual firearms training, and he has direct responsibility for making sure that our private security folks who are armed are properly trained. As I said, he's not only a resource for us, but he's one nationally. We've just appreciated his so much. His endeavors have left a lasting impression on the staff at G4S, as well as on many employees and management employees at the City of Portland. We all appreciate him very much, and now, therefore, I, Charlie Hales, Mayor of the City of Portland, to the City of Roses, do hereby proclaim July 2nd, 2014 to be a day of recognition for Gary Crane in Portland. We ask all to observe this day and wish him well on his retirement from this role. He's still going to work nationally as a consultant, but his service with G4S ends next week. Gary, thank you for your service.
Okay. So what even some members of the community here in Portland have never heard of before is that sex trafficking is a big, big deal in this particular region. And as we get this music montage ready to go, which we'll go to in just a minute, I want people to understand that there's looking at the news of what's going on and then becoming programmed and becoming afraid of men or becoming afraid of people. That's not the agenda here. Something about Portland that draws either this energy out in certain people or also draws them to our city. There's a history of criminals that have come to Portland that have called this place home. And because we're on the I-5 corridor, there's a reason why drugs, people, other things have been trafficked through this region. It's been strategic. One of the reasons why they were Shanghaiing here back in the day, we covered that in episode 2 since my return. That's also my YouTube channel, is because it's only 113 miles by water to get to Astoria. So we know that this is traditionally a human trafficking route and where people were trafficked to Asia and other places. We'll get into the future potential ramifications of what the U.S. is involved in now and what Portland could be like under an unoccupied scenario. But tonight we're not getting into that. We need to show you how Portland's being designed for the new Portlandia, the new real Portlandia, which is not the progressive Portland that a lot of you think that it is. Just because of the small victories, just because you don't have fluoride in your water yet. Just wait. There's a lot of weird things going on with the water, isn't there? Especially in the news these days. Oh, they found this in the water. Oh, they found this in the water. Oh, the federal government wants to cap Mount Tabor. Well, what the federal government usually wants, does the federal government usually get? In a future episode, we'll talk more about Top Off 4, the major so-called anti-terror drill that they did in 2007, so they can get very familiar with all the streets in Portland and our emergency preparedness plan, as well as our underground. Yeah. The federal government made the city of Portland build that massive underground for that new, the new sewer project, the sewer project that cost billions of dollars. It's interesting. So we'll go ahead and play this video and
Put families lured into the sex trade. And if we ask you to name a city that's become the hotbed of sex trafficking, chances are you would never have guessed Portland, Oregon.
Okay. So I will talk more about the sex trafficking issue in a future episode. What I will say is that I have traveled parts of the USA in the last couple of years, and I will say that this town creeps me out. Not just the issues taking place, but the apathy, the denial, the arrogance, the self-worship, the manipulation, the things that people do to manipulate others. It's obscene, and also the level of abuse that people allow themselves to endure. When a lot of people think sex trafficking, they think about the creepy guy around the corner that snatches the girl and pulls her into the car and sells her to the cartels. That's part of it, and Portland is at risk of more of that happening in the future. But a lot of the time, you're dealing with teenagers that know their attacker, that know their controller, that somehow psychologically are allowing the abuse to take place because somehow they're either intimidated or they're programmed or they're actually hypnotized. What I've understood or come to understand in this current incarnation is that there's a whole lot of humans out there running around hypnotizing and controlling through psychological warfare other human beings. And it's sad to see it play out. And we need to work to help people break out of the circumstances where they allow others to have control over them. And there's so many ways those things tend to happen in our lives. And the show is ultimately about breaking out of that prison box in order to live the free lives that we were meant to live. But part of that is sharing with our young children what the world is actually like. And staying out of unhealthy relationships, and my oh my, are there so many within this city that are stuck in abusive relationships at their own free will and volition. So we need to also remind people that they have a right to live a free life. And sometimes that life comes with poverty. Sometimes it comes with homelessness. Sometimes people give us shelter and they do things for us, but in reality they're raping us and they're hurting us and they have their hands around our neck. And you could be male, you could be female. You can be male and be taken in by a woman, and she could be trying to control you and psychologically torture you as well. It can go both ways, not just one way. So we need to continue to make people aware that people are suffering. Of course, the local media in the city, they have a new human trafficking division. Oh yes, bigger government, bigger locks, bigger guns. Oh, they have all the money that they need. They have all the police that they need to take care of certain problems. But of course, they're busy dealing with the homeless and the mental health crisis as more people come here and become crazy or are drawn here because they're told that this is the great place to go if you are crazy. Keep Portland weird. How weird do you actually want it? Be careful what you wish for. No, seriously, be careful what you wish for. So the police are busy, but they're saying, we need a bigger, because we're so good. You mean the same Portland government that was involved in Vice for years? The same Portland government whose first police officer, first city marshal, was involved with the crimping game, had friends that were crimps, people that actually shipped sailors? Yeah, that's the type of stuff that's in our past. This particular lawyer, we'll get that video ready, he has a different understanding of what's going on. Beaverton lawyer accuses City of Portland of stonewalling rape investigation. There is a CEO of a tech company, and he has been accused of rape of his girlfriend. It's a really weird story, the details. He would like burst out of the closet, give her a big bear hug, and just start raping her. And apparently this was like a kinky game, and that's not uncommon for people to be into weird stuff in the Portland area or elsewhere. So he'd burst out of the closet, he'd do his whole, primal thing, and apparently it got to a point where she wasn't wanting him to be in her apartment anymore, breaking in. So the police were called, multiple reports were filed, but this guy is a big player in the business world in Portland. And so let's go ahead and show the next, we'll show that video and then we'll show the graphics after that.
770, request of to address council regarding police bureau actions concerning Megan McCoy.
Good morning, Mr. Upham. Welcome. Good morning. My name is Scott Upham. On February 25th, there's no pending claim. Oh, sure. I represent a lady who reported to the Washington County Sheriff's Office that she had been raped by a man, both in Multnomah and Washington counties. Thereafter, Washington County submitted the report to the Portland Police Bureau in January 2012. Both my client and her rape victim advocate contacted the Portland Police Bureau on several occasions to find out what they were doing about this complaint. but they were stonewalled and never received response. So finally, each gave up. I wrote this letter 2 years later to the Portland Police Bureau on this lady's behalf to find out why she was never contacted and why this case was never investigated. A couple hours after I wrote the email, I got a response back from the chief's office saying that someone should be contacting me soon. We then came down to Portland 3 days later and spent 2 hours with a detective who took a partial statement from her, didn't even come close to completing all the information in her possession. She was asked and she agreed to allow the police to come to her house to download all the information on her phone that she'd accumulated for over 4 years, text messages, emails, and so on and so forth. I asked to receive a copy of that report, and they
I want to thank my crew out there for doing a great job. I want to thank Bill. I want to thank James for doing a great job back there. We're short on time. You got to come back. What we need to do is get to the end of this video, show the end of the video, then we'll show the news graphics right after that. Because we want to show the quick way and the way the mayor comes out and says, oh, no, I'm going to take care of this for you. Oh, no, a little birdie just told me we're going to have that grand jury investigation in no time. And the lawyer's like, what? That's the first I ever heard about any investigation. What you need to see is that the mayor's putting on a show before all you. He's trying to act like he cares. The mayor of the city of Portland ignored this guy for a significant amount of time. It's been in the papers.
Burke is here. I want to ask you to meet with him, and then I'll follow up with him and get a report to my office.
Yeah, the city attorney that sits on the side is advising him.
I appreciate you highlighting it, and I don't think you're being a jerk by bringing your client's legitimate interests to the public. So we appreciate you doing that and appreciate you spending time with him.
Okay, so we're really low on time. We're going to get the next video going right after this. Now, this guy, this is man's testimony censored at Portland City Hall. I know this guy, Keith Davis. He's homeless, and he basically mentioned a particular individual that was arrested. First of all, let's go back to last story. I apologize. Show the graphics as we need to on the last story. So we show the graphics for the news report on the tech CEO, you know, the big time Diamond Ray homie. He's going to help bring the tech jobs to the Silicon Forest. That term is really starting to creep me out, ladies and gentlemen. Silicon Forest. Go back another graphic. I believe you already showed it once. Back again. Back and to the left. Back and to the left. No. Top Portland CEO faces sexual assault investigation. So this guy was running around like a hipster superstar. Oh yeah, hoo-yeah. Thank you very much. You know, hanging out at whatever Southeast joints there are, acting like a Portland hipster superstar. Hoo-yeah. And next slide, going to the happy face. Oh, look how handsome he is. He's a trustworthy guy. Oh yeah, he's working hard on his computer. What the hell is he looking at? Oh man, we are so low on time. Go ahead and roll the next video though, and then we're probably going to have to cut halfway through it to get to how they respond to him.
By the police
this is April 16th, 2014.
Fabricated this story, and then the police came and illegally evicted me. And I was made homeless in 15 minutes. And that was in October in 2012. And what happened was this guy was watching pornography with his 11-year-old daughter, stepdaughter, and his former roommate had told me about that, and I confronted him about that, and so he made up a story. He comes from a family of police, and his wife works for PERS, the Police Retirement Fund. Well, that was in October in 2012. Later, in September 2013, charged with 57 counts of sex abuse, rape, and other crimes against her. Okay? So, I'm just wondering, you guys house a lot of sex offenders and child molesters in this town through all your little programs? I'm wondering if I can get some housing since I was made homeless because of the police protecting a child molester so he could do his thing, you know? And I've uncovered sex offenders in this town,
and went to their house because I knew they were housing street children and doing stuff to them, made a scene outside of their house, and then I'm told to leave by the police or I'll be charged with harassment. And Portland's got a long history of stuff like Baloney Joe's. This guy, Michael Stoop.
This is a real place.
You know, he was charged with all these sex crimes against kids at the homeless shelter that he ran, Baloney Joe's. Well, now he's been promoted to the National Coalition for Homeless. After
but you wouldn't know anything about that, Mayor Hales, would you? Hey guys, go to the last 30 seconds of the video.
Child pornography at the Pentagon.
Go to the last 30 seconds of that video. Thank you. What I want to, there we go. There we go. These are the charges for Andrew Ian Gilderson. We played this video because the city of Portland on their website muted that man saying the name Andrew Ian Gilderson. The city of Portland, using taxpayer funds, muted the name Andrew Ian Gilderson. After this, you're going to see his picture. According to Keith, his wife, Christy Gilderson, works for Piers, the Portland Retirement Fund. I have not yet confirmed this. If anyone knows Andrew Ian Gilderson or Christy Gilderson, let them know. They made Access TV. Okay, with that, what we want to let you know before all of these things are brought to a conclusion tonight,
I was made homeless
before we
after
leave.
being illegally evicted.
The Pierce phone number, by the way, is 503-598-7377. That's 503-598-7377. And you can get to Christy Gilderson's voicemail. I have not gone any further in this investigation. I'm not trying to get myself killed. But I don't think that by talking about things that are in the public domain, that's going to happen. Also, Gilderson, he has an uncle that works for Washington County Sheriff's Deputy. And so there's information on that. Let's go to the last report. Portland judge, victim's grandmother clashes, young sex offender gets probation, not prison. And that is something that's in the news. He molested this girl for several years. Not the video, but the graphic itself. And so there's a little outrage that this man that molested this girl who was 7 years old at the time, he molested her for several years. He got probation, not prison. He did a few months in jail. The same judge that let him off let another guy off. He let off this guy, Houston Rockets forward Terrence Jones, who graduated from Jefferson High School in Northeast Portland, who was seen by officers beating the living daylights out of a homeless man with his feet. He was kicking a homeless man with his feet, this basketball player from the Houston Rockets, and he was let off. All he had to do was pay $10,000 to a charitable organization that specifically addresses homelessness. So obviously there's a lot of things taking place in our town. In a future episode, I am going to talk more about the real Portlandia on a social level. What is changing within the culture of Portland versus what it was versus what it's becoming. I myself am homeless. My email is alex_ansary@hotmail.com. This is now my 4th month being homeless in the Portland area. alex_ansary@hotmail.com. We'll see you next week. Thank you for watching Outside the Box, edition 318 for August 2nd, 2014. See you next week. Take care.